Welcome to Business Talk Sister Talk. I'm Becca.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today we are doing part 2 of Should I Go to College? The pros and cons. The first episode was the pros and cons of going to college. Same topic. We're going to be covering a little bit more of each. And with us today is our sister Rachel, who we talk a lot about, and sometimes we call her Rafi. So if you have listened to the first episode, you probably know we switch back and forth between those two a lot. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is a pro for college, is the social benefit of those group projects and being with people in college. And we always start out with the positive because it's more fun that way. One of the things that I notice is that when you get into like a group project or a class with a smaller number of people where you actually do more participation, the positive thing about that is that you have access to a bunch of people who are specializing in the same thing to bounce your ideas off of. That can be a good thing, and it also can be a great, if the connectivity or the resiliency of the group is strong in which they can handle conflict, a great place to navigate through issues, especially in terms of social interaction. So when we talk about those social skills, and you just learn so much about everybody's personality and their skill sets, whatever, like if you notice there's certain things you can do in certain environments and certain things you cannot do based on like the major that you have or whatever. And like I remember as a younger person in college being like guided by older students and saying, no, you shouldn't say that because of these things, or you should be careful of this because that can be a touchy subject or whatever. And I would have never known those things if I hadn't been in an environment with other people that were studying the same thing. And like an example of this, I was in New York and we were touring an agency for marketing or whatever. And I just was like, hey, has anyone ever told you have like the most beautiful eyes? And like, I thought it was just like, this guy had really beautiful eyes. And one of the ladies looked at me and she's like, that is not how you like talk to people in business. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And he was very gracious and was like, oh yeah, I know, like a lot of people actually tell me that. So I wasn't the only person, but at the same time, there's things that you should maybe not say because that's not the right environment to say that in.
Right. Yeah. And there's that piece where you're learning like from just kind of osmosis of other people and how you're seeing other people interact. But then also I would say like from a communications class perspective, you learn a ton. I learned so much from my psychology classes and from communications classes and stuff that I still apply today and still go back to in different counseling classes and things that I took, because it's, I don't know, I think that's really valuable to be able to have those practical skills that you're learning in a group setting. So those classes can really help you develop those things. Yeah. So that was another pro that I had.
Yeah, to add on that pro, like some of the classes that I highly recommend for literally everyone, statistics and at least a base level psychology class. Like those two,
yes,
so important, helpful for the rest of your life.
If I were to add on to that, it would be interpersonal communication classes or just communication in general. Oh my word, I learned so much. The thing that colleges used to be, if we go back to the history of what they were for, first of all, like they were for only wealthy people, right? When we talk about university institutions, it was only for like the people who literally were not out in the fields sowing like corn or whatever else, as farmers, because they had the resources to send their kids to like higher education. And when we think about that, that's where people started to debate and network and talk and come up with ideas and create scientific experiments and all this stuff. And when we think about, oh, well, that's not fair. Okay, maybe it's not fair, but when we think about all of the contributions those people have made to society in terms of the scientific like things that happen, even if you go as far back as like kings used to literally pay people to do scientific experiments and figure out why is it that meat rots, or like whatever, like all of these different things that we've learned and grown as a society, people had to research and figure out how to do. And as we've gone through all of these different things, if you look at even the development of the United States and those conversations of debate and how those transferred to like the entire making of our political system and all of this stuff, those all happened as conversations and huge arguments many, many times. Universities used to be the place where you went to have conflict with people on purpose to come up with new ideas of getting things done. And I think that that's a huge benefit to going to a college that in some ways might be a little bit more lost than it used to be. I think the benefit of universities now is the fact that you can meet so many people from so many places that you have not grown up around, and they have a completely different worldview or perspective, or even a language that is not primarily English at the start of their life. And when you talk to those people, you start learning how big the world actually is and how different people can have different understandings of the same issue in life. And that can be a really healthy thing to see other people's perspectives. It might not mean that you agree with everything, but it can be a really great place to get a better understanding of how many different things are out in the world and how maybe one solution may be a great fit for one community, but it's not a great fit for every community, because culture and worldview and belief systems can be completely different based on where you live and in the environment in which you grow up in, especially even looking at the difference between people who live in a big city versus a rural area. The solutions that are going to help a class or people in a community can be completely different. And college is a great place to see those differences and come up with or learn from what worked well in one community and how it can be applied maybe a little bit differently in another community.
Mm-hmm. And then on that same note too, like if you are like the structure of college in general, if you are a go-getter, I don't know, like it can
You're gonna
work
do well
in your favor. Yeah. And like, so with those programs and things that Becca was talking about, like there definitely are fields that you cannot get into without going to college. Like you can't just be like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna become a nurse. Like you have to actually go to school for that. So there are certain things that you have to do that. For me, like I'm really interested in digital marketing, but also financial coaching. That's what my personal business is I coach people on their finances. And a lot of that you can self-study for, and you can do different research on your own. And that's something that I spend a lot of time in, but also it's something that I have to be very meticulous in scheduling out my time to be able to do that, to be able to be consistent in the information that I'm learning, and being really intentional about actually seeking out learning those experiences. Whereas in college there is built-in accountability, there's structures in place. I don't think they're all really great structures, to be honest. I think they could really figure out their whole grading system, and all of that could be revamped and made better. But anyway,
It also depends on the professor.
yeah, true. But I think that there's that accountability piece. So if you're not as much of a go-getter and you're not going to be a self-starter to learn all those things on your own, college is a really good route because you have all of that accountability built in, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That was super helpful for me, honestly. So I'm not a personal like self-motivated. Like I need people to be like, okay, this is what you have to do. I'm like, oh, okay.
A con of going to college is definitely how expensive it is, and specifically on-campus housing is super expensive. Like just room and board is insanely expensive, and so if you're going to go, it would make more sense to if you're able to live off campus, that can help a lot, and then you can buy your own groceries. Also, just know yourself what would be healthy for you. If you're not someone who's going to make your own food, then maybe you do need to eat at the dining center or whatever until you kind of develop those skills for yourself. But that's something that to
Yeah.
keep in mind, is that room and board is really expensive.
Ramen
What was that?
ramen for days.
Yuck. No, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna add this one because I have a story about how I got a parking ticket by
Oh, that
Ruthie
was that was
borrowing
shush.
my car.
That's one of our cons for going to college is parking tickets.
Parking tickets. Like, it's like that's how the university makes money or something. Oh my word.
Yeah.
I
No.
tried to pay it off right away, and then I waited a little bit too long. I paid it off, and then they gave me a fee, and I didn't pay off the fee, and then they called back up, and I was like, crap. I was doing so well.
Yeah, no, they sent me a letter in the mail because they had my license plate, and I'm like, I wasn't even at this university.
It was me. I did that. I didn't tell you.
Okay.
Okay, so parking tickets, big con of going to school, big con. Yeah, and then, okay, so one more con. Rachel was going to talk about the falsehood of the full college experience and how people think you need that and why that could be a con.
Yeah. So full college experience in quotes.
Define what that is. What do you think?
Basically the
Would people
whole
say that?
party life. So like you go to do classes, but you come over hungover, and because you're partying with your friends every other day. It's because you can get all of that social aspect in, all the fun, crazy stuff to create memories and stuff. What you end up with is, especially if you're going on a scholarship, the loss of scholarship. You've completely wasted your time because you're not learning anything. So I had a friend in AIT, which is like specialized army training. Anyway, where one girl literally got kicked out of college because that's all she was doing was having this party life, and so her second year in, her grades just tanked. She got nothing from it. When she told me, is like, yeah, after all of this army stuff, I think I have more discipline. I'm going to go back to do it, but I'm basically starting completely over because all the credits I was going for is completely dumped. And she learned nothing. So she's having to completely redo everything. So
And
it's
lost her scholarship too.
lost her scholarship. She wasted it. She wasted all of it. And not to say like a diss on her, I'm actually very proud of her for trying again. Because I think she's gonna do amazing things. Because she learned now, that she had wasted her time, and she had to deal with very disappointed parents. And having to move back home, and a little bit of a shame there. So it's important, if you go, to actually put in to the learning in order to take any of it out. That's kind of that. This is your investment, so use it wisely.
Yeah, and another con that I had kind of on that same lines of what Rachel was talking about, but anything you want to do above and beyond what you're doing at college is kind of on your own dime. So like if you want to sign up for a specific program or something like that you heard about in a community center or whatever, like that's not grant funded, or you want to develop a program or do different projects or things for your degree, it's pretty much all, if you don't get funding for it, you have to fund it yourself and pay for it yourself. Or if there's a program that will be used, like Excel or learning a bunch of Microsoft products and things like that. That's kind of on your own dime, and you have to be able to put in that money unless there's some kind of program through your university, which look into that, find out if there is things. But if there's like internships, you usually have to be the one to do the legwork to find those things. A lot of times schools do have things available that you can work with them, but anything above and beyond is on your, it comes out of your pocketbook, and also you have to pay for your own books, which is dumb. I feel like that should be included in tuition or something. I don't know. It just seems like there should be something that they're giving us.
Or those professors that write their own book and then make you buy it to take their class.
Classic. The heart of entrepreneurship right there.
In academia. Okay, I have another con. So the thing about going to college is that you pay to learn rather than getting paid to learn.
Mhm.
And I think that there's actually a lot of businesses out there that you can work for, or even nonprofits that have a very structured and streamlined onboarding process that basically can train you from the ground up at a skill without a degree. And if you're like, man, I want to learn this, but I don't know if I want to do it for the rest of my life, but it would be a good skill to have. Maybe I can have knowledge of this industry and transfer it to something else, whatever. Anything you learn actually will be applicable to anything else you do in life. It really, for the most part, the people skills, the relationships, those things are things you can never replicate and you learn a lot from. But when you're learning at a job, so you get a job and they have that 90-day time frame in which any work you do that's training is tax deductible, so they take full advantage of that in the first 90 days. That's like almost like a little semester of school learning something, right? Whether it's, and people don't even think about this, I think this is a huge thing. Learning softwares, that is huge. If you know how to use a certain software, there's literally companies that they outsource to pay them to work on their software because it's just so much of a headache to try to figure out on their own. Like IT departments, whatever. But knowing how to do things can be done by getting real life experience utilizing those tools, and learning about a specific industry, the terminology, what's going on there, what people need in that. And you might find that each business, obviously, if you're looking for a job, every business is going to have pros and cons, but you can learn a lot from any job you take about so many life character skills and what you appreciate about other people who do their job and other people that maybe aren't doing it the same way. What's the difference between those things and why is it so different? Like there's so much you can study in just the way people work and the things that people do by not going to college and just getting a degree in life, basically.
Yeah, and I am definitely a product of that. Like that I didn't finish a degree. It's something that I do want to do long run. And the business that I'm working for right now is it pays for a certain amount of college credits. And when I looked for jobs, that's what I wanted. I wanted to work for a company that would pay for me to go to school. And also I knew going into this job that I wanted to, like literally every day I've been saying to myself, how can I absolutely maximize the amount of learning that I'm getting from this time of working here, whether that was in training and just like pounding out 20 different LinkedIn courses and learning as much as I can from them and taking really meticulous notes and figuring out how I can apply those things in not just where I'm working, but in life in general. And when you go into any sort of work environment, even if you were going to work at McDonald's, like go in with the mindset of what can I be learning right now that will apply to the rest of my life? What are things that I'm learning right now that I could teach to other people, or things that I've been like, wow, this was a really dumb idea, I would avoid that. How can I teach that to other people? But just every opportunity that you have, every job that you have, every class you take, if you go to college or not, how do you optimize the amount all of the amount of things that you can be learning from that experience, and then actually if you're like me and you like to document things like crazy, then document the crap out of the things that you're learning. And if you're not, then just get really good at telling other people about the things that you're learning, or figure out a way that you can utilize the things that you're learning, and maximize the time that you have doing whatever it is that you're doing. And that's kind of what Rachel wanted to touch on this. Like, I think a lot of times people think that they have to have a certain amount of training before they can actually apply for that job. Like, Rachel's going to talk about her experience with welding, but a lot of places you don't have to have a background in that at all. They'll teach you everything. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about that and what your experience was.
Yeah, so I had just finished 4.5 years of college, graduated in the winter, and I was like, well, environmental science, I need something in the summer as a baseline. So I just was looking around, found a painting job. So I went there, and they're like, well, that's not anything like you thought it was, the job I was applying for. I was like, but then they borderline begged me to go into welding instead, saying like, we will teach you to go into welding. Like, I've never had any experience. I'll probably be out in 6 months. Like, that's okay. That's okay. If you like it, would you stay? I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, if you're willing to put the resources for me to learn welding, sure, I'll go for it. And honestly, it was a hidden talent. I absolutely love it. I was actually really surprised to be able to like pick it up so well. And they've basically had me shadow work with people, and then I worked alongside someone who's been there for 36 years, and just kind of welded to the side of him. Yeah, it was crazy because then they actually gave me, after actually working alongside them for a while, and they gave me actual training for 2 weeks, and I got 3 certifications, which was actually more than most people down on my side of the shop. And I tell you, like, I was there for a full year before I went into the Army. And it was awesome. And I've never done anything. I still wanted to use my degree, and that's kind of why I went to join the Army for a water treatment specialist. So I wanted to help people. But yeah, it was just like I didn't need any of the education, and I still didn't even use the education that I did at college. Like
at this point.
At this point, I have not. I mean, this different kind of classes that I have taken have been helpful. Really have been helpful. Especially statistics. Love that. I use that actually a lot on just a daily basis. Yeah, so like I it's like I didn't even need the 4.5 years of college that I took. They just, like, if you find the right jobs, they are more than willing to teach, especially for welding and for a few different, like, electricians, some of these blue collar jobs, because people aren't going into it. They want people, so I would recommend people consider, learning on the side, because a lot of people, you don't know this, a lot of industries will actually pay you to take classes, for you to work for them. So you're getting double paid, which is amazing. And if you're going to go the Army route,
you're getting paid in knowledge, and you're getting paid in monies.
I was thinking they're paying for you to take these classes. So and you're working for them. So you're getting paid in classes, and you're getting paid by them.
Yeah.
So
and what were you going to say about the Army?
Oh, if you're going to think about those kind of routes, like you're interested in going the Army route and you want to do education, there's so many different programs. I'm not equipped to explain all of these different programs that they have, but I know the National Guard is really good with scholarships for college. And if you're going to go the officer route, if that's what you're thinking, you can actually go the officer route and do your full 4 years of college through them. It's awesome. I kind of wish that I would have thought that before, but I never even considered Army before I was already done with college and working as a welder.
So a couple other cons that I wanted to throw in there that I think people don't really think about when they start going after something. look at the burnout rate of people in that job. I think that a lot of people that I talk to who are doing teaching or something, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to be a teacher in like this community, and I'm going to like work there for X years, and then the government's going to forgive all of my student debt and everything." And that's a great plan, but when you look at the burnout rate of how many people are in those locations, and maybe they just hate it, and it might just be like the cultural environment of the school or whatever, or the location, they're far away from their family. A lot of times people who get their education forgiven by the government have to go to super remote rural places where they have no friends and family, and work there for like 5 to 10 years or whatever it is, and that can be really hard on some people if they don't develop that network community. And another place that I see a really high burnout rate is people who are super passionate about kids, and they really want to go into social work to make a big difference. The social work burnout rate is like an average of 2 years because it is so emotionally difficult to work in social work. And I think that, first of all, you have to have a 4-year degree to get a social work job. And sometimes you have to have a master's degree. And for the burnout rate, that is crazy. And if that's something that you think you can push through, there's some people that I've met that have worked there for a very long time, 20 plus years, and they love it and that's their life and they can thrive in that kind of environment with difficult situations. I mean, we need those people and that's amazing. But know what you're getting yourself into, because that's a whole lot of student debt to put on to get a degree in social work, and then to say after 2 years, I just can't do this anymore. So Ruthie has some things that she wants to talk about, loan payoff programs, because she has some more info on that.
Yeah, so I don't have any like statistics and things that I can rattle off right now. Which, good job, me. Undercut what I'm going to say before I say it. But I just know, like, look, when you're looking at those loan payoff programs, look at how long the commitment is and look at how much debt you actually have to pay off. Because the odds are, okay, not odds, but if you are a driven person, and you can stick to a budget and you can figure out how much you need to pay off on a monthly basis and how fast you can pay it off, and you've got a whole loan payoff program of your own, it would probably be more cost effective for you to work somewhere and pay it off as fast as you can than making a 10-year commitment working for a place that offers a loan forgiveness program. Because you have to be able, a lot of them, you have to actually stick through the whole time allotment that they say you have to be there for before they'll actually pay off any of your loans for you. And that can be, just keep that in mind when you're looking at those loan payoff programs, because not all of them are as cure-all as you think they are. And also be paying attention to too, because I know a lot of times when you're in those programs, sometimes they can shift the geographic region that it applies to, and you might not know. And so you might not be in that district anymore that has that loan forgiveness program, and you don't even know, and you're still working there and it doesn't apply to you anymore. So keep that in mind when you're kind of looking at loan forgiveness programs. I just wanted to add a note to that. And then if you can pay it off faster than the loan forgiveness program, then you should do that. We're going to transition into the Sister Gawk portion of this episode, where I tell a story about a time that Aaron, my younger brother, and I pranked our oldest brother, Andrew. It was April 1st, and it was like midnight, and Aaron and I were going to go and prank Andrew, and Mia and Micah, our youngest siblings, wanted to be a part of it desperately. And so they kept coming up with all these different ideas. And Aaron was like, no, you guys are too loud. You can't come with. And they were throwing a big stink about it. And so then Aaron went outside and I pulled them aside. They were still like enraged that they couldn't come with. And I said, do not say anything else. Aaron and I are going to go prank them. I'll come back, pick you guys up, and then we'll go over and do whatever you guys want. Prepare, get all your prank stuff ready. And then when I come back, we'll go out. don't say anything else to Aaron. So then Aaron comes back in to a very civil Miriam and Micah and just didn't say anything to them. And then Aaron and I left when we took a bunch of plastic silverware and we did what's called forking someone's yard. So you just stab a whole bunch of, usually you use forks, but we had spoons, knives, everything, the whole gamut, and stabbed it into their yard. But the thing was, it frosted that night, and so it all froze into their
really
yard.
Stuck.
Yeah. So we like jammed all of these somewhere in there, and then we were super quiet about it, and then left. Mia, Micah, and I come back, and they had this whole backpack full of different things that they wanted to use. And we had all of these, it was like flavored juice packets that Miriam was determined to sprinkle all over their yard. I don't know why, because he was like, it's gonna snow and then it's gonna turn colors. It wasn't gonna snow. Anyway, so then we take these packets, she's shaking them all over their yard, these like colored fruit drink packets. Micah takes some single sliced cheese, sticks it on their windows. And then he had this hot glue gun face that he had made. It was like with cotton balls and stuff on it that he was like, we have to tape it to their garage door. And I was like, okay, you do you, just do it quietly. And so then he runs to the backyard, tapes this to their garage door. Miriam and I are shaking all this stuff all over the place. And then Micah had broken his foot at the time. And so Mia and I ran back to the car, and I was like, where's Micah? Where is Micah? And then I see him, because we parked far away because we didn't want to be close. And so I see him like hobbling down this alley on his broken foot. And I was like, get the car. And then Mia had the music turned all the way up. So then when we turned on the car, it was just blasting loud. I was like, oh great, this is just a disaster. Yeah, so Aaron was very right to deny their participation.
In being too loud.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us this week. We will see you guys next week.